Oh yeah, I mean, she was telling me that she didn't really know. She was telling me she didn't really know what you knew, so that makes sense. Okay. Oh, I said okay. Because I want to document this journey, a journey that's very special to me, one that I've been wanting to do for some time now, and I know it's something that will help multiple people, and it's something that I can't even believe has happened. So this is day 3 of knowing my dad after 28 years. Can you believe it? 28 years. At this point, I was feeling a lot of emotions, and it was a lot happening all at once. I had just talked to him on the phone for the first time. I had just messaged him for the first time. I found him on Facebook, which I thought would never happen. And I just didn't know how to feel. It had only been a few days, and I was just in awe with everything that had transpired from the whole experience. You know, you think of something for so long, and then when it finally happens, you don't know how to react. And that's kind of how I was feeling. I was kind of in a space of, this is great, but like, how do I react? How do I respond? I thought of this moment for so long that now that it's finally here, I just kind of went with what I felt in the moment, and I really kept my expectations low, not because of him or his side of the family, only because like I wanted to protect myself and make sure that I kept it real. Like, this is what could really happen, these are the possibilities, um and really just had to let it play out in the way that I thought it would. This is end of day 3. I want to start by saying I have been looking for my dad since I was very young. My mom as well, and she always wanted to make sure I knew who he was and that I would be able to know him, because all of my other siblings know their dad, and so she just wanted to make sure I knew him. And so it was something that I always wanted to do. And like, after I was born, I was like 2 years old, we moved away from the state that we were living in, and she knew that when that happened that she would still want me to know who he was. So ever since we were little, we talked about it. And you know, like when I was younger, it was something that I thought about more frequently, I would say, only because it was something that my mom brought up a lot, and I saw how my siblings interacted with their dad, and so it was just like one of those things where I wanted to make sure that I also felt the same thing. But the older I got, I obviously had more control over what that could possibly look like, and you know, I could do more of the research to find him. And for a while, a really long time, I searched. Okay, so I am 28 years old, and I searched for years and years, and although I had a lot of information, there wasn't enough information to actually get anywhere. I mean, I tried a variety of things, white pages. I didn't do the ancestry DNA thing because I think it requires you to know more information than I knew. But I even called his old workplace. Oh, my phone's wants to die. But I also called an old workplace, and there was like a series of things that I can do. Like, I tried almost everything except for going to Dallas and trying to find him that way. So after years, especially when I was in college, which was, wow, how long has it been now? 6 years ago, a little over 6 years ago, that's when I really started searching again. But as time went on and I just started to develop my own life. It wasn't that I necessarily stopped looking. It was just like I put a hold on it because I was trying to create this life for myself, and I was really proud with how far I made it thus far. But it always came up in conversation, just like natural, because people ask about your parents, and you know, you're like, oh yeah, I'm really close to my mom, and they're like, okay, and then there's crickets. They're like, okay, what about your dad? So then, you know, it just always came up in conversation. And although I will say this, I have my little brother's dad, who's like my stepdad. I love him dearly. He has truly been the honest father figure in my life. I know he's been in my life now for over 22 years now. And so he's a major part of my life, and I love him to death. But he also wanted me to be able to find my dad one day. So he was super supportive of that. Both of my parents were supportive. I was wanting to do it. And, you know, conversation with my siblings, conversations with everyone really just continued to come up. And it was just one of those things where everyone was just like anxiously waiting and wanting it to happen. So saying all that, I recently, so in the past few months, it has just came up more and more in conversation with a lot of people that I was talking to, whether that was my friends, whether that was my siblings, whether that was my mom, whether that was my stepdad. Like, it just kept coming up. And although like it's been something, finding him has been something that was needed to be happen for so long now, something just felt different this time. And so there was a situation, Mom, if you're watching this, about to tell this story, only a piece of it, but there was a situation where, you know, my mom was just feeling more regret than usual for me not knowing my dad. And although I did not resent her for not knowing my dad, and I told her that I was just like, something's brewing, something's about to happen. So Facebook, let me tell y'all, Facebook, if you know enough information, is a good resource for finding people. I've had people find me on behalf of my mom, and so I really use that as the main source. And although I had checked on Facebook for multiple years, I never had any luck. So it was a random night, and I was on Facebook, and I know his, and like the age and the potential kids. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go on here and look up the last name and see what I can find. So on Facebook, you can search for somebody, and then you can filter by state, you can filter by city, you can filter by work. There's so many additional filters that you can use to really find who you're looking for. So one night, a few nights ago, I randomly went on this. It was very random, like very random. But I have been using Facebook for this situation in particular for so long that it felt like any other time I was going to look. I was like, okay, maybe I'll have luck this time. But I was beginning to see a lot of the same people that I had seen when I was searching originally. And honestly, I put in the first and last name, looked through the list of people that I saw in there, and it's weird because, like, would you actually know someone? Like, you don't necessarily know what you're looking for unless like someone in your family knows what they once looked like. And so it did take me sending my mom like multiple photos, be like, oh, is this him? Is this him? For her to kind of help me and say yes or no, because I really feel like I would not have been able to say, yes, this person looks like me. So after searching the name, and maybe searching for maybe like 20-30 minutes, I don't even know it was that long, just like going down a rabbit hole, I was like, you know what, I haven't taken this approach before, so let me go ahead and take this approach and start messaging people. Some people are receptive to that, some people are not. So I messaged a guy, and I messaged a woman. Deciding to go ahead and message someone on Facebook was definitely out of my comfort zone. I knew that eventually it would come to that, but it was something that I did out of rare curiosity, not expecting to get any response at all, or me having to message multiple people. But I really can't tell you what was in me that made me want to message him in particular. Like, it was just kind of like in the moment. And this was after a series of digging and using his last name to kind of figure out, okay, who on what spectrum could possibly be a part of his family, and then just kind of ending up on his page and saying, okay, I'm going to message him and see where it goes. And I cannot tell you the emotion that I was feeling when I got a response and he said something that clicked. So once doing that, my message was basically like, oh, you don't know me, but I'm on the hunt for someone, and did you know someone named, I said my mom's name in the year that they would have known each other, to the guy and a lady. So I wasn't really expecting a response, almost, because like after looking on the Facebook page, I could tell that they weren't very active. And so then I decided, or then it was like 30 minutes maybe. And he responded and he said, the guy responded, the lady never responded, but I ended up messaging her, just being like, never mind, because it was just like not the route I needed to go. But I had tended that was gonna happen, especially because I decided to do a random check of some sort. So let me stop rambling on. So basically he responded quicker than I thought, and he basically said he doesn't really remember, he's bad with names, and he said, why? And I said, well, she's my mom, and do you have kids? Like, do you have twins? Because that's one of the things my mom kept telling me. And I sent that, and he responded with saying that, no, he said, I did date someone around that time, and we had a daughter. So at that point, I remember that was something that my mom told me, because they dated for a short period of time, but enough time to conceive me. And so at that point, I called my mom. I sent my mom some pictures, and I was like, Mom, does this look like him? Like, he said this, and that's something that just like tripped me up, because that was the first thing he said. And I was like, there's no way that someone who doesn't know me would say that without actually knowing. So once I said that, I was like, oh, I need to call my mom, because I was like freaking out at this point, because it was too real, you know? So then she was like, well, girl, ask him some more questions, because that didn't really look like him. And, you know, like, people age. It has been almost 30 years at this point. Like, people look not completely different, but different enough to where, like, you wouldn't automatically know what they look like. So then I started asking him more questions. I started asking him his age, and once he told me his age, I was like, holy smokes, because it was the age that my mom thought he would have been. So I was like, oh, this is getting weird. So I'm like freaking out with my mom, and my boyfriend sitting here with me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So then I'm like calling my mom, I'm asking him more questions, like, do you have a recent picture? Asking him a series of more questions. And then the thing that got me is that my boyfriend mentioned me asking him where he worked, because my mom remembered where he worked, and I was like, you're right. If he says where we think he was working, then this is going to be crazy. So then I asked him, okay, I mean, at this point we had a variety of messages back and forth, and he was like, do you want to talk on the phone? I was like, can I ask you more questions and all these things? And then he said he worked where my mom thought he worked, and I was mind blown, because it was very specific. It was very, very specific. So at this point, I'm freaking out like, Mom, oh my gosh, like he's saying everything that you've been telling me this whole time. And she's like, okay, give him my number and let me talk to him. So then they talk on the phone for like 40 minutes, and I'm sitting here all anxious, just like waiting for her to call me back to tell me what happened, etc. And they hang up, and she's like, girl, or she's like, Raquel, that's your dad. So it was insane, and all I can remember is just like shaking, like, is this really happening right now? Like, after all this time, is this really happening? And the emotions are unsaid for, like, it was really a feeling that you can't explain, because I had been waiting for so long, and I was just in awe. And the crazy part is that he only had his Facebook for 2 years. And that gives me chills. It gives me chills to think about. It gives me just a lot of emotions to think about. It was really inspiring that in this moment, because he created Facebook, I was able to find him short of, 2 years later. At this point, I'm freaking out, because at this point, like, you waited so long for something, especially this, like, I'm 28. So you just like don't know how to respond, you just like don't know how to react, and it was crazy. And it's only been a few days, but so much has happened in a few days. For example, I have siblings on my dad's side, and so like they've reached out. They were saying that they've been searching for me for years, and like the only thing my dad knew about my mom was her name, which is like not her first name, which is not enough information really to find anybody. And I was also just like taken back just by the whole situation, because like I said, you dream of something for so long, and then like when it finally happens, you're like, whoa, what do I do? But then you just have to take it on full force, because you've been waiting for so long. So I've had a series of messages back and forth with my siblings, feeling lots of emotions. I'm feeling excitement, anxious, and I am really just like on edge. I shared it with some of my best friends who've known me for a long time, with my siblings. I've been talking to my mom a lot about it, just because I feel like she really can experience this with me. I've been talking to my dad, my siblings. We are going to get a DNA test, because it's just like one of those things that I think will make everyone feel better. Everyone's like 99% sure that, I'm a part of the family, just based off of my features, based off of some of the similarities that we've already figured out. So I will be traveling to Dallas, and this will just be an experience that there's been people who have offered to come with me. There's been people who, other people have suggested should go with me. And I really feel like it's one of those things that I want to kind of experience on my own, only because like I'm expecting a certain energy, and I can't allow anyone around me to disrupt that. And I just want to experience it without having to worry about what someone else is worrying about, what someone else is talking about. I'm just like, it's for me to experience. And of course there are multiple people I would want to come with me to experience this with me, but I just feel like I need to do it by myself, to allow myself to stay in a certain headspace, because this is something I've prayed for years. This is something that I've been wanting for years, and I just like can't even believe it's here. I've been journaling about it.